1,533,000,000. That's how many thoughts you'll have if you use the Googled answer. I didn't like that number though, because I couldn't find a source where we got that 60,000 from. And even with that, let's take that 60,000 and let's divide it into the amount of seconds we have per day. And that's about 1.44 thoughts every second of every day that you're awake. I mean, for some that sounds reasonable, But that sounds like you'd be thinking like constantly with new ideas every second. And we can go even deeper and find out, what are we basing a thought as? Where is this 60,000 coming from? What is it using as its source? Are we including background thoughts, the ones that we don't even notice that much, or just the ones that we do? And who came up with this number? When I Googled it, I didn't see a name or a face or anything about it. So it got me thinking, and I spent a whole weekend trying to figure this out. And let's just say, for a number that we should know, it got really weird. So soon after, I found this article trying to dispute the claim of the 60,000 thoughts a day. It was on this site called PolicyViz. And they did a little deep dive, and I thought that was great for me. That's what I needed. So they started off saying, the number seems to have first appeared in a 2013 Forbes article under the title, Got Inner Peace, 5 Ways to Get It Now. And here's a quote from that article. According to the research of Dr. Fred Luskin of Stanford University, a human being has approximately 60,000 thoughts per day, and 90% of these are repetitive. Okay, we have a name now to this 60,000 number. And so I looked him up just to find out if he's real, and he is. He did do work at Stanford University. Okay, so we're one step closer to finding out where this number came from. So I went onto that Forbes article, and I clicked on the link for their source. And wouldn't you know it, the link is dead. But to be fair, the link is 13 years old now, so. And it gets weirder though, because I went to go look for his study, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So the PoliViz article continues, and they say that they went to contact the Forbes writer of that article. But unfortunately, they couldn't get back to them. So instead, they actually went to go contact Luskin himself, and he actually came back with an email. And a direct quote from Luskin himself, I have no idea where that quote came from. So at this point, from my reading of this, when I wanted to find out what the answer was, I was already like a day into this, because I didn't expect to even spend, an hour or two at this. But I was too far gone, and I needed an answer. So I kept reading the PolicyViz article. And they found that in 2005, the National Science Foundation published an article about this human thought thing. And apparently they quoted a 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day figure. But this was a dead end for the PolicyViz author, because they got an email back from the NSF, but they couldn't find any proof of that paper existing in their database. And at this point in my research, the PolicyViz article goes on a separate little tangent for their own answer for something else. I ended up finding another website, healthline.com, and they had an article saying, how many thoughts do you have each day? And this got me excited because there was a new number they used. And the number they used was 6,000 thoughts per day. Now, when I first read that, I thought that might have been a little too low, considering that 60,000 was much higher. And even with that 60,000 not having a basis anywhere, I still thought maybe the truth was somewhere in around those tens of thousands. But in the Healthline article, there was a link to a 2020 study. And in this study, they talk about how scientists were able to track participants' brainwaves and see when new thoughts appeared. These scientists wanted to figure out when new thoughts appeared and to see if we can track where in the brain they happen. And with that, they give us a really important number. 6.5 thought transitions per minute. And if you're awake for 16 hours a day, that's 6,240 thoughts each day. We can take that 6,240, we can multiply it by 365 days in a year, and assuming the average lifespan of 70 years, that's 159,432,000 thoughts in a lifetime. So, mystery over, that's it, right? For me, that was it. I spent about 3 days at this point. It was going into Monday evening while I was looking at this. There is a case to be made that we don't know exactly what we're counting as a thought, and if the scientists were measuring that alone and what they were using as their basis to count as new thoughts. But if we look at it this way, 6.5 thoughts per minute sounds about right. You tend to linger on about something in your mind, and you're not thinking constantly of new things every single second. And I think an important thing to end this off with is a quote from that PolicyViz author. "It's a nice round number and has the aura of science, with the scientist's name to go with it." At the end of the day, make sure you have some source for whatever you're basing your claims off of, so you don't have to dwell on these things like I did. And if someone ever makes a claim that you don't agree with, spend multiple days and nights figuring out why they're wrong, and then come back to them with a piece of paper written all down with your notes explaining why they're wrong, and you'll come out on top. Thanks for watching and listening to my rambles. I'll see you in the next one.